أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطاهرين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الحميد وقوله الحق أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قال ربنا الذي أعطى كل شيء خلقه ثم هدى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, we meet under very difficult circumstances. I wish it was in person, but I know with COVID-19, unfortunately, we cannot gather together as we've done over the many years before. I hope you're all keeping well and you're safe. It is my privilege and honor to be reciting the next lectures over the next few nights, and I look forward to speaking with you, albeit not in person. Before we start our today's topic and our discussion, I'd like to request that you recite Surah Fatiha for those marhumeen that have passed away since last Muharram, in particular those that have passed away due to COVID-19. We pray for the shifa of those that are marid at the moment. May Allah grant them shifa بحق Imam Zain al-Abidin. In particular, I must remember one person in particular who we've lost in the last 12 months. It is Uncle Mazhar Jafri, who has been an ever-presence, certainly since I've been a young child, and he will be missed. I really hope that you will take time out and recite a special Surah Fatiha for him in particular. My dear brothers and sisters, I have been given the honor and the privilege to speak with you through this medium over the next few nights. The topic that we'll discuss is a topic that is very close to my heart, and it's something that over the last few times that I've spoken at Al-Qaim in Slough, it's a topic that I have referred to, and hopefully, inshallah, over the next few nights, is a topic that I'll be able to go into a lot more depth. I've only ever been able to touch on it briefly. And that is a topic broadly that I would label as an Islamic perspective on modern life. When I speak to the youth who, through various sort of classes, teaching, or just general chit-chat, I'm finding that they increasingly are distant from the religion, and they're finding that our discussions, the majalises that used to inspire us when we were growing up, they find tedious, boring, and perhaps more worryingly, not relevant to the challenges that they face in this day and age. And with that in mind, I've chosen to discuss a few things which I believe are questions that have arisen in the minds of many of the youth that I've spent time with. And that is not just attempting to address the challenges of modern life, but providing an Islamic perspective, a perspective that the Ahlul Bayt taught us 1400 years ago, but that have been less emphasized over the last 15, 20 years, because the topic and the subject matter that's been discussed in our majalises has been different, and has been emphasized as being a different areas. So it's not like this is new. This has always existed. These teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and the verses of the Holy Quran have always been there. It's just that they've never come to the forefront, because that's not the questions that the people of the time, the youth of the time, were asking. I know when I was growing up, the key issue was the difference between Sunni and Shia. That seemed to be the key topic. But today, that doesn't seem to be a key topic or challenge for the youth. Today, they're facing an even bigger challenge, a challenge that says intellectually, the Shias are weaker. Not just the Shias, But the Muslims as a whole, we are weaker than all the other societies out there. Whether it's the Western civilization or whether it's Eastern, Western being America and the Anglo-Saxon world, whether it's the Eastern, the Chinese empire and the intellectual capital that is now accumulating in China and the brilliance that China is producing. To some extent, even India and the Hindu culture that's coming up, they're sending people to the moon, and less emphasis is given to Muslim contribution to that, and more emphasis to the Hindu legacy and the Hindu origin of the effort. So, in all sides, Islam is being demoted and is being pushed back to being a second-rate thought, a second-rate religion, a second-rate way of life. It's got nothing to add to the modern world. And we find that the youth are having to deal with this question in a very difficult way, without much support and without many answers. But let me pause there and get my youth to think about those questions. And if they have any specific questions, please do share those through the General Committee, and inshallah we'll try to address it over the next few nights. In particular, let me outline what we were looking to discuss over the next few nights. It's the intellectual challenge that we'll face, or another way to word it is the scientific challenge. So within the intellectual challenge, there's also the scientific challenge. Science is becoming a religion on itself. People are outdoing themselves in the field of science, and science is stamping its authority as saying, what I say is the truth. What religion says is outdated, outmoded, and not relevant today. What religion you practice out of tradition, out of respect for your elders, out of respect for your parents, to some extent out of compulsion. But what we want to show over the next few nights is that this religion, Islam, in particular, due to the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and in light of the Holy Quran, is as relevant today as it was 1400 years ago. It's as relevant today as it was 1400 years ago. I've said this on many occasions. I believe that the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in particular, and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in particular, are more relevant today. I think it probably went over the heads of many of the Arabs at the time when Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, would get up on the minbar in Kufa and recite the many beautiful khutbahs that he gave that are found in Nahj al-Balagha. The thought process, the ideas that they were discussing was far beyond the audience that sat in front of them. Last time I was with you, we discussed Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and we discussed the teachings, and we discussed in particular the event and the fact that Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, his father, would sit on the minbar of the Holy Prophet in Medina, and he would be lecturing on different topics, different subjects, including geography. Can you imagine that someone is sitting on the minbar of the Holy Prophet discussing geography? So we have lost that heritage that we had, that teaching that we had, the legacy that the Ahlul Bayt had left us. We have lost that. We've lost touch with that. Instead, we have focused on a very narrow scope, and we've said that is the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. No, my dear brothers and sisters, the teachings of Ahlul Bayt are far, far beyond the very narrow scope that we have. It's not just fiqh, it's not just salah, it's everything. And the teachings of the Quran, if you look at the Quran is inviting you. It's saying, come, let's study the world, let's study the universe, let's study nature. Because in every study that you'll undertake, you'll discover the beauty and the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the power that we have. It's strange, sometimes you have the jewels in your own hand, but you don't appreciate it. You look across at the other person's garden, you think, oh, they have a wonderful house, they have a wonderful garden. But it's an illusion. You have everything, but yet you do not spend time in it. You do not devote yourself. Strange I say this, in COVID-19 conditions, we've all been stuck at home. We've discovered what beautiful homes we have, or in many instances, we've discovered that we need to do some DIY around the house. Right? But we do have an amazing legacy. We do have an amazing heritage. We do have some amazing, amazing teachings that we just don't spend any time devoting ourselves to. And this is not new. These things have happened many, many times. If you spend a bit of time studying the Holy Quran, we'll find this over and over again, that the rulers of the time would show the highest science, the highest knowledge of the time, as a way of defending their position. And the prophets that came would challenge them and show them how and why they were superior. Today, that challenge lies with the Shias of the Ahlul Bayt. Imam is in Ghaibat. He has left a legacy with the ulama and with his Shias. It's our responsibility to make sure that we first understand the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, second, that we practice the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, and third, that we propagate them. But we propagate them in the correct manner, in a beautiful manner. That when people look at the Shias of the Ahlul Bayt, they'll say, they must be the followers of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Remember, that was a hadith of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq. It says, when people look at my Shias, they know from their actions that they are our followers. So the challenge and the discussion point that we'll have over the next few nights is some of these topics that the youth are facing. It's an intellectual challenge. Is Islam intellectually capable of answering some very difficult questions? Is Islam, and can Islam contribute on the scientific front? What is Islamic view on freedom? Is there a view? Do we have a view? Are we free to do what we want? And what does that mean? Because trust me, and if you come in most Islamic circles, you spend most of the time saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. It's always a negative. It's never a positive. No, go and do this. No, go and do that. Never contribution to human development. It's always about the negativity. So what is Islamic contribution? What are the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt with regards to freedom? What is the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt with regards to the social and economic systems that we live in? Do we even have something to offer on that front? These are the topics of today. Whilst it's beautiful that we recite many of the historical events and stories, the youth feel that those are historical events and stories. They don't add anything to their daily life today because they don't have someone who's addressing those topics. And it's not like the Ahlul Bayt didn't address them. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't addressed those in the Holy Quran. They have been addressed. It's just we haven't spent any time talking about them. We haven't spent any time considering them. We haven't spent any time immersing ourselves in those particular areas. So that's going to be that's inshallah will be our topic over the next few nights. What I'd like to do today is spend a bit of time on the verse that I recited at the outset, and that is verse number 50 from Surah Taha. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was ordered by Allah subhanahu to go to Pharaoh to ask Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go, Bani Israel go. And he turned up and he presented his arguments. Beautiful, eh? Who would have thought that the Islamic teachings start off with presenting your discussion points, your arguments? Islam today is the only thing they present are bullets and bombs. But we know that is not true. We start off with presenting your arguments. So Hazrat Musa Pharaoh asks Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Harun, he says, قَالَ فَمَنْ رَبُّكُمَا يَا Musa? He said, so who is the Lord of you two, O Moses? Which Lord have you come from? I am Pharaoh. I am the Lord today. قَالَ رَبُّنَا الَّذِي أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ ثُمَّ هَدَى. He said, our Lord is He who gave each thing its form and then guided it. قال ربنا الذي قال, he said, Rabbuna, our Lord, الذي is the one, atah. Atah, we know what the word atah means. Atah means grant, give out of His mercy. Atah kullu shay'in khalqahu. He gave everything. He granted out of His mercy everything, creation. He brought it into life out of His mercy. He wasn't compelled. He didn't have to do it. And then He guided. So what are the two things that we learn from this verse and the way that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam presents the arguments? He reminds Pharaoh where he's come from. He says, can you give creation? No. You can take life. Taking life is easy, but giving creation or bringing to life is more difficult. So my Lord is the one who grants out of His mercy creation. And then He guides. So this notion that Islam is limited and can only answer a certain set of questions means that this verse of the Holy Quran is incorrect. It's unjustified. It doesn't explain. The Quran is limited and it's inaccurate, or we haven't understood the religion of Islam properly. At the time of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, the science of the time or the intellectual height of the time was magic. So Hazrat Musa alayhi salam had to combat the magicians. I don't have time to go through the details of what happened, but the magicians came forth. They presented their magic. Hazrat Musa threw down his staff, which swallowed up their magic. And they bowed down before bowed down in sajda in front of Hazrat Musa and said, we bow to your Lord, because we know what you've produced is far superior than anything a human intellect can produce. And we'll see that over the next few nights. That what is shown to us as to be intellectually superior doesn't touch upon the teachings of the Holy Ahlul Bayt. If we truly spend our time, devote ourselves to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, we'll realize that what is today the height of intellectualism is just the dust on the shoes of the Ahlul Bayt. I mean, they are truly masters in terms of their full understanding of the true nature of everything. We find that at the time of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, there were many healers. Medicine was the key thing. Curing many illnesses was the key challenge. Hazrat Isa stepped forth. He cured the leper. He brought back the dead. He showed them that if that's the intellectual height, if that is the science of that particular time, then I can produce something far greater. But the challenge we have today is that God's representative, Imam Zamana, may Allah hasten his return, is in ghaibat. What we have is the Quran and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt with us. And from that, we have to formulate our own response. God has given us, He said, I've given you the tools. Imam Zamana is there if you ever need it. We know many stories of when the Imam Zamana came and provided support for the Shias when they needed it. But he said, I've given you the tools, now you try it. Now you try it. Dealing and establishing in this world, you establish the arguments so that people come towards you. But the question and the challenge I pose to you is, are we genuinely committed to this ourselves? Are we convinced? So the purpose of the next few lectures isn't to convince others outside, it's to convince us that the teachings of Ahlul Bayt are genuine, are worthy for us to spend our times and devote our lives to. That is a challenge. I'm going to finish off with quite a lengthy story from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. I think I may have touched on this story previously, but I think it's worth spending more time on and going through the details in particular. So the story is narrated that Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam was in Makkah. He'd gone for Umrah at the time, and an atheist from Egypt whose name was Abdul Malik al-Misri. So Abdul al-Malik al-Misri. Okay, so al-Misri being he was from Egypt. He was an atheist, but a seeker of knowledge. Okay, so he's an atheist, a seeker of knowledge. He'd heard of Imam Jafar Sadiq, so he proceeded to Medina. He arrived in Medina and he found out the Imam wasn't there. Imam was in Makkah. So then he left Medina to go towards Makkah. When he arrived, the Imam saw him coming. Before he could speak, the Imam said, "What is your name?" He answered, "Abdul Malik." He said, "What is your title?" The Kunya. He said, "Abu Abdullah." The Imam asked the following question. He said, "So who's the king?" Abdul Malik. So Abd is a slave, Malik is the king. So who's the king which you are the slave of? Man was perplexed. I've come here to challenge and question this man. Before I could even speak, he's questioning me about my name. Not even my views, my beliefs. He's questioning me about my name. The Imam continues, "Is he from the kings of the earth or from that of the sky? Inform me about your son and his name. Is he the slave abd of the Lord of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the earth or the sky?" The man at this point was totally confused. So I've come here from Egypt with all these arguments to challenge this man and to prove to him that God doesn't exist. And before I can even open my mouth, he's asked me some basic questions about my name, my title, and I'm dumbfounded. I'm struggling to answer. The Imam turned to him and said, "Sit down. Think about what I've asked you, and I'm going to go and do a dua." So the Imam went off and worshipped. It's strange how the Ahlul Bayt combine ibadat, and they don't see a difference between ibadat and amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar and propagation. For us, it's ibadat. We have to pray, and then we have to, if we have a bit of time, we'll do a bit of propagation of the religion. For them, it's all one. They are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. They are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are then devoting themselves to teaching and preaching and explaining the rules of the religion. And then they go back to the worship. We hear this story about Jafar Sadiq over and over again. People used to come to ask him questions. He would come away from his salah. He would answer the questions. He'd go back to his salah. And it's strange, eh? For us, it's, no, we can't discuss this now. We must do the salah first. I'm not talking about wajib salah, but mustahab salah. We must do this. Why is there talking? Why is there discussions? There should be no discussion. This is only thing. No. If there's a discussion, it means someone's interested. So they would give their time up. We'll come, inshallah, in a few nights' time, we'll come on to another example where Imam went through a very similar exercise with someone else. The Imam came back, and again, before the man could speak, the Imam asked him, do you know that the earth has upper and lower parts? The man responded, yes. Do you know what's inside them? The man said, I don't know. The Imam continued. He said, so you don't know what's inside them? He said, no. But I guess there's something underneath. There probably is something. I mean, I look at the sky, there's nothing, I can't see anything. If I look underneath, I could probably see, there's probably something underneath, but I don't know. I haven't dug. I have not been there. So I guess there's something there. The Imam responded, he said, guessing? You basing your arguments on guesswork? Your beliefs on guess? Have you been up to the sky to say there's nothing there? The man responded, no. So do you know what's there? No, of course you haven't. Imam continued, says, have you been to the east or the west? Do you see what's beyond the east, this point that you've been? It's a bit of a mouthful. Or the west point, the furthest point you've been on the west? I said, no. Misr, Hijaz, that's it. That's my limitation. I don't know what's beyond Egypt. I don't know what's beyond Hijaz. I don't know. So Imam responded, it's astonishing that you approached neither east nor west. You haven't traveled. You didn't go inside the earth. You haven't gone up to the sky. But you still don't believe. So where's that come from? Is it acceptable for a wise person to deny and reject what he does not know? Just because we don't know it doesn't mean it's not true. Just because we don't know it doesn't mean it's not true. So my dear youth, just because your parents or the teachers or the speakers that you have in Muharram haven't been able to explain it to you, doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean that the Ahlul Bayt haven't answered the questions. All it means is we as your teachers, as your elders, have failed you. That's all it means. Go and search for the truth yourself. I beg you, go and search for the truth. The teachings are there now. There's no hiding. Yeah, go and search for the truth. It's because I have failed, or other of your elders have failed. Yes? My dear brothers and sisters, the story continues. The Imam doesn't stop there. The Imam doesn't stop there. The man is now totally perplexed. His mind is all that. He came in wanting to present certain arguments in a very definitive way to make sure that he could prove that God didn't exist. Instead, he hasn't even got to presenting his arguments, and already he's being questioned. But the Ahlul Bayt are the Ahlul Bayt, and a speaker sitting on the minbar is a speaker sitting on the minbar. Not the same. Of course, they're not the same. At this point, Imam said, the man responded. He said, "No one has ever talked to me this way." The Imam turned to him and said, "So are you still in doubt? Maybe he is him, or maybe he's not." The man responded, "Yes, maybe." So he's come from what position? There is no God. He's come all the way from Egypt to where? To Hijaz. First to Medina, now to Mecca, to argue with Imam Jafar Sadiq, to say that there is no God. But he's now, within a few minutes, he's now all of a sudden moved from there is no God to maybe. But Imam didn't like the response. He said, "Oh man, one who does not know does not have a reason against the one who knows. And there's no reason from ignorant against scholar. My Egyptian brother, if you understand that from me, you will not be in doubt anymore." So that's not an argument. Maybe, possibly. Have an argument and I'll accept it. If you can show to me that God doesn't exist, I'll accept it. The Imams did. So if they couldn't, Mubayla is a classic example. 3 days they debated. The Holy Prophet debated 3 days with the Christians. Couldn't convert them. Yeah? So they accepted them. Accepted their arguments. There's no problems with that. If it's a reasonable basis that you present your arguments, there's absolutely no problems with that. Okay? So bear that in mind. We're open-minded, especially the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. We're absolutely open-minded people. We'll accept other people's arguments. But we feel that if we got into a fair discussion and a fair point, and we're allowed to put our views forward, that we will present proper arguments to show the existence of God and to show the importance of the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. The Imam continued, said, "Do you not see the sun, moon, night, and day? Neither goes in front of the other. They're all tied in a restrictive cycle. If the sun wanted, it could move away. If the moon wanted, it could move away. If it was free to go to do so. But they're all compelled. They're all compelled. They all follow this cycle. Day after night. The sun, the moon after the sun, sun after the moon." That shows, that's one of the arguments, that shows that there is an ultimate cause, that something is holding this all together. Something is forcing its will on these objects. So do you not see that the sky is held up in the heavens? And it doesn't fall down on you. The sky is there. Why doesn't it fall down? There's something that's holding it there. And the earth that you walk on, it's there as well. It doesn't collapse underneath you. The Imam says, "I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the creator and manager of these is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's put everything into motion. He's established the basis of this world, of the skies and the earth. And inshallah, the sky and the earth will spend, in a few nights, we'll spend a bit of time on that. There's some beautiful verses of the Holy Quran which explain very powerfully to what's going on in the ozone. And inshallah, we'll discuss those as well. At that point, doubts and delusion left the Egyptian man, and he believed. And he recited the Shahada at that point. But I want to leave with you the final message, the final bit of the tradition that we find. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam didn't stop there. He then turned to his companion Hisham. He said, Hisham, now take this man. Take him and educate him. Take him and educate him. This is just the start. I convinced him, doesn't matter. This is the start. Now let him go and learn the true teachings of Islam. My dear brothers and sisters, I know it's been difficult. I know we've all been locked down. I know it's been challenging. But if you're genuine, I'm speaking to the youth in particular, if you are genuine and you genuinely believe that there is a truth out there, but you're struggling to get hold of that truth, and you're struggling to find the teachings to get you to that truth, you're struggling to get the answers to the difficult questions, I genuinely believe, and genuinely I've seen it with my own eyes, if you ask sincerely, then like this Egyptian man who went from his home to Medina, then to Mecca, if you ask sincerely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you the answers. He will provide a means for those answers to come to you. But we have to be sincere, and we have to be devoted, and we have to be open-minded. Because if there's a narrow-mindedness that exists, not just in our community, but all communities, narrow-mindedness that exists is what's preventing us from progressing. So my dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll close today's lecture at this point. We'll continue over the next few nights, as I said, looking at how Islam and what Islamic contribution is to the intellectual challenges that have been posted out there for us, not just from a scientific point of view, but also the social, economic, and political challenges that exist. And if you do have any questions or any specific points that you'd like to make, please do reach out through the organizers, and inshallah, we'll try to address them over the next few months. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.